Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now, your host, Tim Johnson.
The oil and gas industry has played a critical role in the economy of Louisiana for decades, providing thousands of jobs and a significant part of state and local government revenue. The recent drop in crude oil prices is having an impact on our economy and on our state's budget. We'll talk about all this and more when Don Briggs, president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, joins us on the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
The Louisiana Business and Industry Show will be back right after this.
Founded in 1984, BIC Alliance and its subsidiaries connect business and industry buyers and suppliers with one another for the betterment of all. BIC helps companies grow in three ways: aggressive sales and marketing campaigns in BIC Magazine, finding the right people through BIC Recruiting, and by merger and acquisition and related services through IVS Investment Banking. Contact BIC Alliance today.
The funny thing about Louisiana is that people don't often ask you why you moved home. They just accept it as the most natural thing in the world. Because of course I would want to move back home and be near my tribe, be in this beautiful landscape. It just inspires me. Whether it's a golden marshland, an expanse of sugarcane fields, a sunset through a cypress swamp, the outdoors here really are like nowhere else. You can start your day off paddling at Lake Martin, finish it off with music at the Blue Moon. I came home for my dream job, but also because I believe in Louisiana and where it's going. We're building a world-class Central Park in Louisiana, planned by the members of this community. And I just bought my dream home, a sustainable house designed and built by the architecture students here at the university. My electricity bill was $30 last month. The life I thought I would have in Austin is actually happening right here in Louisiana. I'm E.B. Brooks. I have the job I want in the place I love.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the soccer star to the soccer mom. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Consumers and property owners with a construction project can have a very successful result or a regretful experience that could have been avoided. Before beginning any construction project in Louisiana, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers may claim to be licensed or bonded, but you should ask for a copy of the license. For additional information, contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors or go to the website lslbc.louisiana.gov. Licensed and qualified contractors. It's the law.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show with Tim Johnson.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Very pleased to be joined by Mr. Don Briggs. He is the president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad you're here. Tell our viewers about the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, LOGA, sort of the mission, the history. Give us some background.
Well, we represent the independent sector of the industry. A lot of people don't know what independents are, but they're the non-integrated companies versus Exxon and Shell.
Not necessarily
Chevron.
the big boys, right?
They're not the big boys, but we are the big boys when it comes to production in Louisiana, because the independent producers drill and produce 95% of all the oil and gas in the state of Louisiana. We have about 1,700 members, and we advocate for the industry, and we connect our membership together. We protect them from issues, with the legislature that we're concerned about, and we do a lot of education outreach as well.
You have been sort of a fixture at the state capitol since the early 90s, a very well-known person in terms of advocacy for the organization that you represent. But you have personally been in the oil and gas business yourself, really, since, as I've researched you, since You graduated from what was USL in Lafayette back in the mid-'60s. You went to work for a company, I think, called Owen Drilling.
That's correct.
So you've got a great perspective, I guess, on the industry in our state. So I want to get into the specifics of what it looks like today, sort of the state of the oil and gas industry in Louisiana today a little bit later, but give us some perspective on how important the industry has been over time and how it's grown in Louisiana.
Yeah. Actually, I've been in the industry. I was thinking about it before I came on the show. I think right now it's almost 52 years.
How about that?
So I've been
you don't
around.
look old enough, Don, to have been in it 52
been around a
years.
while.
Right?
But the industry, Louisiana is an energy industry.
Absolutely.
State. Okay, I mean that's what we are. We're an energy state, and we're a lot of wonderful things. But there's no question about that because, 30% of all the natural resources that flow to the rest of the country flow through or from our state through our intricate pipelines that we have and all the different production that we have. So we're a critical part of the state as well as the state's budget. We contribute literally the economic impact is in the billions, tens of billions of dollars if you include all sectors of the industry in relation to refineries and pipelines and that sort of thing.
And then all of the spin-off jobs that
all the
exist as a result of
several 100,000 jobs when you get down to it, and direct, indirect.
It's been really the driver of our economy for a long, long time. And Louisiana Economic Development Secretary Stephen Moray, who is a friend, was recently on the radio show, and he talks about diversification, which is critical to our economy, right? We want to make sure that we're not too reliant on any one industry, but it really has been the goose that's laid the golden egg in Louisiana, and it will be critical to our economy really going forward for the foreseeable future, won't it?
It will be. All you have to do is just Google oil and pipeline map, and you see this incredible network that feeds the rest of the country, and it all comes from Louisiana, goes through our system, and goes to the rest of the country, from our refineries, from offshore, and from other parts of the world.
It really is. I say that often, that we are the energy provider for the rest of the United States, and we've done it in a pretty responsible way, I think. The answer to this question may seem pretty obvious to a lot of folks, but how has fracking changed the industry?
Well, I'm going to go through a quick explanation of this.
Sure.
I mean, we've been fracking since 1947. So fracking is really not something new. But what is new is fracking and lateral drilling. For instance, in North Louisiana, the Haynesville Shale, it's down at 11,000 feet. We've been drilling the Haynesville for years. It's 200 feet thick. So when we drill a vertical well into it, okay, we get 200 feet of pay. But it's tight shale, dry gas, and it's uneconomic to drill. But today, kind of picture it like a two-layered cake. And right in the middle is that icing, and that's the Haynesville. So now we drill into that vertically, and then we drill laterally, okay, for 10,000 feet. So instead of having a 200-foot pay with a vertical well, we now have 10,000 feet. That has changed everything. And it was just 2008. We were building the LNG import facilities, and now we're building export facilities.
Right.
We went from 20-year supply of natural gas to 200+ year supply of natural gas. That's changed everything.
Now, we got about 2 minutes left in this segment, so I want to hit on this briefly. Because of supply and demand issues globally, right? As when all of this oil and gas came online in the United States, and we'll talk a little bit later about the United States now being the #1 producer of natural gas and on our way maybe to being the #1 producer of energy of all kinds. What happened was that the supply that existed globally was increased significantly, and I think that's part of what's maybe driven down some of the prices. OPEC has said they're going to maintain 30 million barrels a day, regardless of what the supply looks like, and that's what's sort of driven our prices down. What's going on in these two shales, particularly in Louisiana, Haynesville and Tuscaloosa? Are we seeing activity drop off significantly?
Well, the Haynesville, at one time we had 135 rigs drilling there, okay? And we created so much gas, we created a glut in the natural gas market. So we watched those rigs decline from down to 25 to 30 rigs right now. So that's what's happened to Haynesville. The Tuscaloosa Marine Shale is a high-cost oil play. And when high prices like this, it's going to be difficult for companies to drill there as long as oil's not needs to be at least $80 a barrel.
The economics of it are just not right. One of the things I want to do after we come back from the break is talk about some of the criticism that fracking has received from an environmental standpoint. Sure. I know you've been in the middle of that discussion as well, and I know that we have proven that we can do it safely. We're visiting with Don Briggs. He is the president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, and you're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show on Cox 4.
The Louisiana Business and Industry Show will be back right after this.
BIC Media Solutions is a marketing and communication, media advisory, and event planning company within BIC Alliance. BIC Media Solutions offers custom book publishing, event planning, and keynote speaking to its clients in the business and industrial sector, and marketing partnerships to others in publishing. BIC Alliance is your business and industry connection. Contact BIC Alliance today.
What if I said that the American dream is alive and well, and that it exists for anyone willing to build it? That the power of a nation does not reside in its monuments, but in the hearts and minds of those who built them, and that the country's greatest heroes also wear hard hats. In today's America, it's not enough to dream about the future. You have to build it. Build your future at byf.org.
Consumers and property owners with a construction project can have a very successful result or a regretful experience that could have been avoided. Before beginning any construction project in Louisiana, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers may claim to be licensed or bonded, but you should ask for a copy of the license. For additional information, contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors or go to the website lslbc.louisiana.gov. Licensed and qualified contractors. It's the law.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show with Tim Johnson.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. We're visiting with Don Briggs. He is the president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. Don, before the break, we got into fracking and how it's really changed the industry, although we've been doing it for 40 plus years, as you've mentioned. You've sort of been in the middle of this discussion as well. The environmentalists have come after fracking pretty hard. I think the science has proven that we can do it safely. What are your thoughts on the criticism that fracking has received?
Well, there have been many studies done by the federal government with taxpayers' money, in-depth studies, EPA, different groups, and there's never been any genuine tie saying that fracking is causing any kind of environmental damage. And first of all, the industry wouldn't be doing it if there was a possibility.
There's too much risk, right?
No, there's no way that would happen. And so, someone lights their faucet and they get, but that's natural occurring methane. It's not caused by the fracking. The fracking is not causing earthquakes, and fracking only goes, when it's fracked, only goes about 120 to 200 feet both ways. So it's not something that's going to the surface and causing all the different problems that people are so concerned about.
Well, and the fact
so we're not going to change the environmentalist mind. So that's just the way they are.
I think that a track record of doing it safely for an extended period of time is the only thing that really begins to change that thought. But one of the things fracking has done is it's renewed the discussion in the United States about energy independence. We mentioned earlier, I think the United States has already become the #1 natural gas producer in the world. We're on our way or potentially moving toward being the #1 crude oil producer in the world. And so this whole idea of energy independence is being talked about again. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I don't believe we'll be ever totally energy independence when it comes to crude. Now, natural gas is another whole world, and we created our own export market with that. But crude oil, I mean, for instance, here in the U.S., we consume 20 million barrels a day. We produce close to 10 million. By another year from now, we will be. And then
about half of our demand. Right?
About half of our demand, and then we get liquids and natural gas liquids, and then we got extra refineries. So that's another 4.6 million barrels we get, and so we're just importing about 4 million barrels. 7 years ago, we were importing 10 million barrels a day, and we've cut our imports in by almost half. So it's incredible. But will we ever get totally in? I don't think so, but we're getting very close.
But the reserves that exist that we've identified now because of the new technologies that we have do state that we've got this energy that will be available to us for a long, long time. So let's jump into the oil and gas industry in our state. And we talked a little bit about the history and the perspective and how critically important it is, and you mentioned hundreds of thousands of jobs. But give us an idea, the big picture overview of the current state of the industry in Louisiana. You and I were talking a little bit before the show, and these prices are having an impact, obviously. Where do we stand?
Well, our companies that are drilling in Louisiana are certainly, everyone that I've talked to, are cutting their budgets by anywhere from 35, 40, 50, 60%. So this past January, just last month, we had the lowest number of drilling permits in the history of Louisiana.
Wow.
The lowest. And so we're going to see a slowdown. There's been a lot of job layoffs, and there will be some. But these are also times when the industry kind of tightens its belt and relooks at service sector as well as operators, because we've been booming and going and drilling and doing so much. So everybody's going to tighten up a little bit. Yes, there will be some job loss. We're very concerned about it. It's a loss of revenues to the state, which is very important.
We talked earlier, I think, that every $1 in the reduction of the price of a barrel of crude oil costs the state about $12 million.
That's
Is that
correct.
right?
So if the average price for the year drops by down to $50, and so we're losing that, and so it's several $100 million worth of revenue to the state. And we're, oil and gas revenues, state's the largest landowner.
Right.
So they have severance tax and royalty that they get, and that goes into state coffers, which represent about 14% of the general budget. So it's a big number for the state and for the state coffers.
It really is critical, and we've seen some announcements that higher education could be significantly impacted, healthcare, obviously. We've got this huge backlog of infrastructure demand in our state that is critically important for economic development. So we need a strong and vibrant oil and gas industry in our state. And as you mentioned, a lot of folks are tightening their belt. They're going to look at things more efficiently maybe. But what's the long-term prospect that you see? What are people telling you about the price of oil, say, over the next 12 to 18 months?
We're going to see prices below where we'd like to see them probably for a year. OPEC is vowed to, this is a war against the industry in the United States. They want to take out about, 1.5 million barrels of oil out of our production. So the marginal producers in this country are going to be hit pretty hard by this. But long term, we've been here before, we've done this before. We're going to survive, and we'll continue to be a very vibrant industry.
I think we'll be more well prepared to work our way through these lower oil prices this time. We're going to take a break, but one of the things I wanted to mention before we go to break is I read an article saying that OPEC has targeted the fracking and the oil industry in the United States, and they're going to maintain production at 30 million barrels a day, even though there is a worldwide surplus of oil out there, simply to keep driving prices down and maybe restrict what happens here in the United States. We'll take a break. I want to come back and talk about the upcoming legislative session. I know you guys will be active. We're visiting with Don Briggs. He's the president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, and you're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show on Cox 4.
Louisiana Business and Industry Show will be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Joe Martin, president of ITI Technical College. Do you want a better life? Get your associate's degree in occupational studies in information technology from ITI. In 2 years, you'll be on your way to a better life. You will get hands-on specialized training in computers, hardware and software, networking, and more. ITI offers flexible class schedules, and financial aid is available to those who qualify.
So don't wait. Call ITI now or go online. It's that simple.
ITI, for a better life.
The funny thing about Louisiana is that people don't often ask you why you moved home. They just accept it as the most natural thing in the world. Because of course I would want to move back home and be near my tribe, be in this beautiful landscape. It just inspires me. Whether it's a golden marshland, an expanse of sugarcane fields, a sunset through a cypress swamp, the outdoors here really are like nowhere else. You can start your day off paddling at Lake Martin, finish it off with music at the Blue Moon. I came home for my dream job, but also because I believe in Louisiana and where it's going. We're building a world-class Central Park in Louisiana, planned by the members of this community. And I just bought my dream home, a sustainable house designed and built by the architecture students here at the university. My electricity bill was $30 last month. The life I thought I would have in Austin is actually happening right here in Louisiana. I'm E.B. Brooks. I have the job I want in the place I love.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show with Tim Johnson.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. A good conversation with Don Briggs, who is the president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. We've talked about these declining oil and gas prices and what they mean for the industry in our state, critical industry to our state, not just in terms of the revenue that it drives toward a state budget, but the impact it has on our economy, billions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of jobs. So I know, because I've known of you and known you for a long, long time, how actively engaged LOGA is in the legislature and advocacy on behalf of your industry. What are you hearing from legislators? What are they telling you, and what are you telling them?
Well, legislators are ones I'm talking to and have talked to here recently. They're all concerned. Everyone's asking the big question. I mean, how long is this going to last? How bad can it get? You know, how long will prices stay down? So what's that going to, do with us and jobs and the people in their community? Because they're concerned about that, and they know coming up in this next session, I basically tell them, the truth of the matter is, nobody really got an idea how this is going to play out, but it's going to take about a year to get rid of the 1 million barrels that the Saudis want us to get, to see out of the marketplace. So it'll take at least that long, and so it's going to be a tough road. And that's pretty much what I'm explaining to them.
It's going to be interesting to watch, because what we may be seeing here as a result of the improvement and the changes of the industry in the United States and this whole idea of energy independence is OPEC and the Saudis and those groups. There's going to have to be a reorientation of how the industry works worldwide, the economics of the industry worldwide. And I think there will be some balancing. I read an article just within the last few days that one of the major commentators on the industry worldwide said we might not see $100 a barrel oil again for a long, long time. But the industry will be able to reorient itself, and I think good things can still happen. Now, one of the big concerns, obviously, and I've talked to Stephen Moray about this, Louisiana Economic Development Secretary, is what impact will these falling prices for crude oil have on the billions and billions of dollars of investment announcement, particularly petrochemical investment that we've seen coming to our state? What's your perspective on that?
Well, the petrochemical end of it, they're so dependent on natural gas.
Right.
So that's a separate market than your oil market is. And we have an abundant supply of natural gas. So the petrochemical industry, I think Dan Bornay likes to say, natural gas is to the petrochemical industry as flour is to the baker.
Absolutely.
He probably said it on your show one time.
He absolutely has, yeah.
And that's very true. But the oil, the LNG, is tied to the price of a barrel of oil. So, yeah, there's been a delay, but I met with LNG people yesterday. They're moving forward with their projects. So I don't see that putting a halt to any of this. I mean, the LNG market is going to be a very important market, and the petrochemical industry is going to have plenty of natural gas.
And that's really, really good news for Louisiana, obviously. You know, the whole idea is that some of these gas to liquids projects may be effective because when oil's $100 a barrel and natural gas is $2.50, then that margin, that difference turns it into an economically viable thing to make liquids out of natural gas. When oil's $50 a barrel, it's cheaper to make liquids out of crude oil, and that's what we're seeing. But these natural gas-based projects are still going.
But I do think we're going to see higher oil prices. I mean, a lot of people, you know, they're talking about, but you understand, all those OPEC countries, every single one of them have to have at least $100 oil to take care of all their needs and their social programs. So though they say we're not going to see that, I don't agree with that. I think we'll see that in probably a year and a half from now.
We'll see it, right, because it's going to impact them as well in the long run. Their economies are based on oil, just like part of Louisiana's is. About 2 minutes left, so let's jump into a couple of things just kind of in rapid fire answers here. What else is LOGA going to be focused on in terms of the legislative session?
Protecting ourselves. You know, this is a tough year. I mean, the state's got a, you know, what, $1.6 billion deficit, and
incentives are going to be on the table, right?
Our incentives are all on the table. Everything's on the table. There's fees we're looking at a little bit of everything, and so we're going to have our hands full.
It's going to be really interesting to watch how all of business is impacted. You know, we've had such great success in economic development over the course of the last year, and a lot of that can be attributed to very aggressive incentive packages that have made Louisiana the best place to come and build these projects from a tax standpoint and a lot of different other ways. But this budget deficit is going to cause a lot of problems. Yeah. What else is on the horizon for the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association?
Well, we're just monitoring all of this, and we've got our hands full doing that, and workforce development's a big thing for our industry right now, and we'll just continue to do what we do best, and protect our guys and pray for higher oil prices.
Thanks for being with us today,
Thank
Don.
you, Matt.
It's always, we'll have you back sometime soon because it's an important issue to our state.
I'd like that. Thank you.
That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining us today. Join us again next week at this very same time for another edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show on Cox 4.